Flawless victory.
Don't mind me. I'm just gonna lurk it while I work it.
Flawless victory.
Well, hello, good evening. What's up, you weirdos? Oh boy, how about a little bonus Friday afternoon foo action, huh? Let's do this thingy.
Ladies and gentlemen, get hyped. The Fanatic Zone is now live.
Let's get this party started.
Enter the lead, weirdo.
You know who.
Man Fu.
And away we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, weirdos of all ages, leave the board at the door and bring the hype once more. Happy Friday, folks. A little bonus Friday foo action. We've got some shenanigans in store. It's going to be a short stream, but and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's say some hellos. Good evening, or good afternoon, Tridine. What's up, buddy? Good afternoon, Voltan. Be safe on the way home. Grease, good afternoon to you. Serene Princess, thank you so much for the lurk. I appreciate it. You have a wonderful afternoon and evening. Tridine, thank you for the like on YouTube. Let me get that going on there. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. How's it going, peeps? Ready for the weekend? So, some of you, most of you probably know why we're here, but some of you may not. So, to let everybody know, today was the Diablo 4 Campfire chat. It ended probably just about an hour or so ago. I don't know how long it was. Talking about the PTR, the upcoming changes, possibly some season 5 stuff, things like that, right? So we're going to get a little sneak peek into what's coming in the near future for Diablo 4. Some exciting stuff. It's a great time with the momentum that's being built up by Diablo right now. The devs have really started to kind of right the ship, and it really feels good right now. So we're going to get into it and talk about it. We're going to do like a react. We're going to watch the Campfire chat together and kind of stop and talk about it at key points, and then we'll have a little discussion about it, and if we got any questions or whatever. So should be fun, man. I'm excited because like I said, it's gonna the next year plus is really going to set the tone, is going to really solidify, I guess, the legacy for Diablo 4. It started off rough, but here recently it's really improved, and it's in a pretty good, solid place right now with plenty of room for improvement still. A lot of things they could work on and do in-game, looking at you. And so then we got the expansion. We got Season 5, we got the expansion, and then we got further content updates down the road. The next 6 to 12 months is going to be very interesting for Diablo 4, and I'm hoping it continues on the trend that it's taking right now, because that's good. All right. Let's see. By the way, if and again, thank you for the like on YouTube, Tridine, appreciate that. Some of you may be watching and may not be able to be here for the whole thing. That's okay. Just as a reminder, all of our streams are now archived on YouTube. So you're more than welcome to go back and watch the VOD if you want to see this later on YouTube. It's there. Every single one of our streams is saved on YouTube now. So, even though there's no mechanic for this season, it's been fun. Yeah, it has been. It has been, and I feel like I feel like this season was set to kind of right the ship and get the foundation set. Granted, we could argue to we're blue in the face, right? That should have been done beforehand. That's neither here nor there, right? I mean, obviously it wasn't. But the fact that they took this time to finally get it right, I think it's okay, you know? Suffered the Star Trek movie curse. All the odd numbers are poorly received, yes. Yeah. Oh, man. No doubt, huh? No doubt. It's going to... Yeah, Season 5, man. Season 5 will be the telltale sign. Well, I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. What's funny is, like you said, Season 1 and Season 3 were pretty rough. 2 and 4 were very good. So now, what's going to happen with 5? We'll see, right? So, yeah. All right, let's go ahead and switch over. Boop. If anybody's got any questions or thoughts, by the way, I have not seen this yet. I've been at work. I just got home from work like 30 minutes ago. So I've avoided any kind of talk about the content, the campfire chat, all that. So you'll get to see me experience it and react to it in an authentic way because I haven't seen anything. So we'll see. We'll see. So without further ado, I went ahead and skipped past like the little intro starting soon. And then they did like a little video, the video trailer for the Loot Reborn with developer insight and all that. I skipped past all that and then zoomed right to this point where they first came on the screen. So I'm assuming this is where it's going to start. So let's see what we got.
Happy Friday, Diablo community. Welcome to another Diablo 4 Campfire Chat. I am Adam Fletcher. I'm joined here by a very familiar face, Mr. Adam Jackson.
Hello, hello.
The Adams have invaded.
It's a tale of two Adams.
We have taken over. We actually are joined by one additional person, and this person is tuning in, patching in. I don't know what the...
Is the volume okay for you guys as far as the developers talking and then me talking? Does that sound okay? I can adjust things if need be.
Phoning in? I don't know. From Albany, Blizzard Albany, and that's Mr. Dan Tangway. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. Hi, I'm Dan Tangway, and
Hi, Dan.
I'm one of the lead seasons designers for Diablo 4.
Thank you, Voltan.
Yeah, we've got a lot of exciting stuff to share with you.
Awesome.
Nice.
Great to hear from Dan. Dan is kind of like melting in Albany. I believe it's very, very warm up there. It's actually warmer there than...
Wait a minute. Melting in Albany? It's not hot in New York, is it, Voltan? You guys aren't having any heat or anything, are you? I think every stream for the last 3 weeks, Voltan's like, "Hey, good evening, Foo. Can you take your heat back?" They seem a tad low, but it's acceptable. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Voltan, couldn't resist. When I heard him talking about how he's melting in Albany, I don't know how far Albany is from where you live. I have a general idea where you live, but I'm not good on geography. But I'm assuming they're getting similar weather to what you're getting. So yeah.
California, which is kind of crazy. But
It is, yeah.
Look at this. Adam and Adam.
Ooh, I love it.
We did it.
No more Joes.
No more Joes. Where's Joe Pipora? Not here. He's actually on vacation, so that's the reason why he's not here. But we have a lot to talk about today. We are actually going to be talking about Season 5 and the PTR. And we do want to, there's been a lot going on with Diablo 4 over the last couple months.
Yeah.
Obviously, Season 4 has launched. We had our mid-season update last week. We introduced pets. Which is really cool. No one expected it, but we did introduce pets within Season 4. And at the same time, we also had our release date announcement for Vessel of Hatred,
sure did.
which is
Huge news.
October 8th.
Yep.
So lots and lots and lots of cool stuff that's going on with Diablo 4. And we have more to share today, but Of course, with PTR, we do need to talk like a little bit of the housekeeping stuff to make sure that players are aware of it and when it's going to start. Currently, we have Season 5 PTR actually starting next Tuesday, and that is on the 25th. It will run for 1 week, similar to the Season 4 PTR. It is PC Battle.net only again. It is just easier for us to be able to get builds up and get things out and get feedback in really quickly when we have it on PC Battle.net. So that will be going live next Tuesday. Everything that we're talking about today will be in a blog that will go live after the stream, as well as patch notes will be going live after the stream, and they're pretty beefy
Nice.
in themselves, or in it. I don't know. It's Friday, you guys. It's we haven't done a Friday stream in I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a long while.
Yeah, agreed,
for
Tridine.
feedback, though, we will be opening up our PTR forums for players to actually be able to submit feedback. So the Diablo 4 forums will have a special section for PTR. And then separately, if you do want to leave feedback on other avenues, such as like Reddit or the Community Sanctuary Discord, places like that, we most definitely end up like combing through all the different various ways of players being able to provide feedback specifically from that end. For this PTR, we will note that this one will be a little different than Season 4 in regards to how you can start off characters. There will still be character boosts like what we had with the Season 4 PTR. I believe it's actually moved to a different city. I can't recall. I think we had it in Kiyovoshad before, and I believe it's in a different city, and I don't recall which city it is.
That doesn't really matter where it's at.
But
We'll figure it out.
All that information will be there after the stream. Separately, we did incorporate a character copy feature, but we initiated this character copy already. No one knows this, but as of yesterday, characters were copied from your accounts over to PTR. So it gives you a little bit of variety of being able to take over some of those characters that you've already built out. Or, you know, if you want to, you can still use the character boost. I will note, we do want players to be experiencing it in like a variety of ways, like whether using your your current characters that we're copying over, or if you're using some of the character boosts. We do recommend, or if you want to level up from level 1, too, like that's another option as well. It allows us to get feedback from all different aspects, so we do recommend you know, trying it out in different ways and providing feedback of like how things feel, how things flow within the PTR itself. So that is all kind of like the general housekeeping notes that we do have. Oh, and I will say that I believe we actually did we did correct that Codex of Power reset thing as well.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. I remember that was plaguing some people last season. We did correct that, so it won't reset, I believe, every single time you end up like creating a new character or boosting a new character, I believe. And then separately on the forums, we will have a known issues list. Because they're, you know, it's PTR, it's an early build, so we want to make sure that people are aware of that. And with PTR, you know, when we take in feedback, it's great for players to be able to like provide all various forms of feedback. I will say by the time Season 5 launches, we will try our best to get as much of that feedback in. If it's something that's like a massive, like, oh, like a huge overhaul or something like that, I wouldn't expect it in Season 5, but it is good to hear that feedback because it might be something that we end up incorporating maybe in the future for like a future season from that end.
Yeah, it's very useful. So it totally helps us drive future decisions, and even we did a lot of reaction to PTR feedback in Season 4. If I remember right, we did like a whole lot on our team at least, and I expect the same for Season 5. So
exactly,
send it in; it's very useful.
And then one last thing I do want to note is because players have probably seen when Season 4 is ending, which is currently in early August. You can see that kind of like on your character select screen when you're jumping into the game. I will note that Season 5 is a little bit shorter of a season than what we've had beforehand. Season 5 itself will run until that October 8th date.
I wonder why. I wonder why Season 5 is going to end around October 8th. Anything happening that day?
With Vessel of Hatred, because Vessel of Hatred is actually the start of Season 6. So we did want to at least
I figured they would do that.
Because we've heard
line it up
questions of like, hey, is like
with a season start.
Is Vessel of Hatred hitting in the middle of Season 5? Things like that. So we did want to note that from that end. But enough of the housekeeping notes.
Yeah.
I know a lot of players want to hear about Season 5 in itself. And so Mr. Dan Tanguay from the sweltering city limits of Albany will be walking us through Season 5.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's dive into the new features on PTR for Season 5. Just to give you a little bit of context, we did some early brainstorming for Season 5, and we knew that, we needed to build out the end game. So end game, we've heard y'all that end game is very important. And
Yes.
Season 4, we added the pit into the end game, and some people have been playing Helltides into the end game, but we still want to expand the end game a bit more, right?
Good.
So if it's an end game activity, we definitely need something that's rewarding and very replayable. We also wanted to make something with a lot of monsters. I mean, monster density and just entering that feeling of flow state's really important for players. We needed something that had stakes, and we wanted players to push their luck. And finally, we really wanted to return to hell. Previous Diablo games like to return to hell after you defeat the big boss, but Diablo 4 hadn't done that yet. And so with all those goals in mind, let me introduce you to the Infernal Hordes. Now, let me give you a quick summary of what the Infernal Hordes is. It's a wave-based gameplay mode with survivor-like choices in between the waves, and it'll culminate with an all-new boss encounter. And then the rewards build on top of itemization 2.0 that came in Season 4. So, now how do you go about confronting the Internal Hordes? How do you get back to hell? I think we can queue up some footage, and then I'll talk you through some of the ways you get back to hell. All right, first off, you're going to unlock, the activity for hell with a brisk Eternal questline starting at World Tier 3 in Zarbinzet. That's where you need to go in the PTR. Now you need a new type of key called a compass, which you can see down in the inventory below here. And like Nightmare Dungeons, the compasses all have a starting monster difficulty and a number of revives. And there are 8 levels of difficulty with escalating challenge and rewards. As you can see, it's a very Nightmare Dungeon-like flow here. And then compasses can be upgraded to higher tiers with all new consumables called Abyssal Scrolls. So you'll get a chance to play with all these new features when you're in the PTR. But let's really talk about the gameplay itself. And I think we've got some footage of the wave-based play that we could show off here. First off, going to have a lot of monsters. Now, you have one monster here. This is the start of Wave 1. And so you defeat this Aether Fiend, and it's going to drop something called Burning Aether, which is a new currency. Now, this new currency is specific to Hell, and you use it to unlock the spoils of Hell at the end of a run. And at the end of each wave, there's going to be what's called the Infernal Offer. So let's get through this wave, and we'll take a look at the Infernal Offer. Now you see these hands reaching out from hell itself, and they're tempting you with a choice. You're going to choose the form of your destructor. You're going to pick a boon and a bane that impacts the rest of your run.
Oh, cool.
And so now you've chosen a boon and a bane, and that's going to modify the gameplay that comes up next.
Hey, Vorshin.
And so here you're jumping into one of the new activities that also unlocks Aether in this. And this is a Soul Spire. It's pretty similar to a Hell Spire that you'd see in Helltide. And you have to kill a number of enemies within that ring.
Yeah, that's fine, Vorshin. I will give out some currency at the end of the stream for everybody who retweeted. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Velworth, how you doing?
In order to be able to earn an Aether. And you can
Let me go back just a little bit
from the Infernal. Take a look at the Infernal Offer. Now you see these hands reaching out from hell itself, and they're tempting you with a choice. You're going to choose the form of your destructor. You're going to pick a boon and a bane that impacts the rest of your run. And so now you've chosen a boon and a bane, and that's going to modify the gameplay that comes up next. And so here you're jumping into one of the new activities that also unlocks Aether in this. And this is a Soul Spire. It's pretty similar to a Hell Spire that you'd see in Helltide. And you have to kill a number of enemies within that ring in order to be able to earn an Aether. And you can upgrade Soul Spires from the Infernal Offer as well if you like. And then finally, what you need to do is complete the number of waves in order to be able to confront the boss. And so you see in this particular run, you're at 5 of 5 waves. So you are just about ready once you defeat this wave to go confront the new bosses for the Infernal Hordes. So we'll finish collecting our Aether here, find our last number of enemies, and I think we're good. I think we're ready to go. So let's take a look at our new bosses. I think we've got some cool art to share here. So these are the Fell Council. They're going to be some familiar faces for Diablo 2 players. They are resurrected
that looks
versions
cool.
of the council members from Diablo 2.
I like that.
For those of you who didn't play Diablo 2, the council members were former high priests of the Zakarum, and they had
oh man, that looks
promised
good.
to basically take care of Mephisto after he'd been trapped in the Soul Stone, and he'd been hidden down in Kurast and Travincal. And of course, as it happens, Mephisto corrupted them, both in mind first and then their bodies, and they became demons who are just zealous and serve him without question. And so we thought it was going to be really cool to be able to resurrect them and bring them back for Diablo 4, and they fit great in hell. We had to tweak their power sets a little bit to fit the D4 combat system. So we gave them new titles and new looks to really reflect their combat specialties.
Yeah, I will say it's incredibly awesome to see these guys come back. You know, it's
they look really good.
Nostalgic vibes of
the council
doing
members,
a bunch
man.
of
That's cool.
Durance of Hate runs for Mephisto and doing Meph runs and everything like that. Exciting. So yeah, it's really awesome to see him back in season 5.
That looks good.
Yeah, I agree. Diablo 2 is certainly near and dear to our hearts here out in New York. And yeah, we're really glad to have him back, and we hope to see hopefully more returning new faces in the future too. So let's take a look at that boss encounter now. So I showed you a number of members of the Fell Council here. We've actually built 5 of them in total, but you're only going to fight 3 at a time. Now, we keep 2 in the hopper, basically, and we do that because we want to have a whole bunch of replay associated with this boss fight.
Yeah.
And because we're only using 3 of the 5, there's actually 10 variations of this boss fight you can fight.
Nice.
Randomly as you do your Infernal run. And so we're going to basically kill them off, and once you defeat one, the fight will actually escalate. Actually, it probably escalates even if you just take down a certain amount of health, if I remember correctly. And it escalates. Basically, their attacks become more powerful, and then they start really getting even more powerful kind of room-clearing attacks towards the end. But we've defeated them here, and this is the reward moment I actually wanted to talk through with you, because this is something that really ties into Itemization 2.0. You've got several chests here, and you've got a choice of the rewards you get at the end of your Infernal run. You can choose from a chest that contains all new legendaries and uniques. You can choose from a chest that contains all sorts of crafting materials, including masterworking materials, so you don't need to go to the pit anymore exclusively to get masterworking materials. You've got a chest that allows you just to get a whole bunch of gold. I know people out there are really asking for gold, and this is going to be a good source of it. And finally, even though it wasn't shown here, you have a chest that guarantees a single item with a greater affix on it. And so we thought we'd want to try this out and see how people respond to it. And we thought it would be pretty exciting. You know, certainly in season 4, I'm really trying to get some more greater affixes. So I'd love to have this in season 5. So yeah, let's take a closer look at some of the uniques you can farm from the Infernal Horde, since we're talking about rewards already. So we're going to queue up some footage here. So first up, we've got the Basilisk. And so this is going to be a new unique staff for druids. And so when you hit an enemy with an earth skill, it'll petrify them and deal physical damage. So turning the monsters to stone, always cool. But it's also cool that you can CC your target and boost your initial attack here. So this one's pretty exciting for you druid players out there. All right, next up. That's cool. We've got the Third Blade. Now this is a unique sword for barbarians.
Okay.
This one makes your weapon mastery skills be treated as core skills that cost fury. Even though they deal a little reduced damage, this one's pretty exciting because now you can start making all sorts of new builds that you've never seen before.
I like that.
So we're really interested to see what the community comes up with here. All right, next up. We've got the Mordicrux. Now, the Mordicrux is a new unique dagger for Necros. So when you consume a corpse, there's a chance that you'll create a skeletal simulacrum that seeks out enemies. And when it dies, it explodes. So essentially, you're making a skelly bomb when you consume the corpses. And so that's just going to seek out targets and explode. I think that'd be pretty handy for my Necro this season. So I'm looking forward to that one too. Next up, we have the Umbracrux. Now, the Umbracrux is a new unique dagger for rogues. So if you use a subterfuge skill, you'll create a totem. And if you hit that totem with an attack, it replicates any of the damage it takes to all nearby enemies. And so it's a great way for essentially replicating and doubling down on the damage that you're dealing in a particular area. All right, next up we've got the Vox Omnium. Now, the Vox Omnium is a new unique staff for Sorks. And so when you cast a core skill, it's going to cast an additional 2 basic projectiles based on the previous elements used. And so this allows you to really start comboing your core and basic skills together. And if you decide to have different elements associated with those core and basic skills, now you can start casting fire and lightning and cold all at the same time. So we're pretty excited about this one too.
That's really cool.
And the final one we're going to share out here is actually a new set of boots that's available for all classes. And these are called Rakanos Wake. And so whenever you use an ability with a cooldown, you'll trigger an explosion dealing fire damage. And so really, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to bathe your enemies in flames whenever you use a cooldown skill. So maybe I'm going to dust off my...
That's a lot of damage, too, for a proc.
Slap them on and see how it does. So yeah, these are some of the uniques and legendaries that are going in to the Infernal Hordes. I think there are 10 uniques overall and over 20 legendaries that you can farm from the Infernal Hordes. So,
oh, wow.
There's going to be a lot to chase down in there.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dan, for sharing, going through all that stuff.
Okay, that's cool. So they're going to have different uniques available that you could farm from the chests. One thing that looks really cool is those of you who are Grim Dawn fans, did you notice how... So in Grim Dawn, I can't remember the name of the system, the map style system in Ashes of Malmuth that you go into, and at the end you do waves, and at the end, not the Crucible, but the other one where you're going through, you kill enough enemies and you can move on to the next area, kill enough enemies, move on to the next area, and finally you come to a boss. And then when you finish the boss, Shattered Realm, thank you. Did you notice the similarities at the ending there, the reward stage, to Shattered Realms? In Shattered Realms, there are several chests, depending on how well you did and how far you went, that you can click on and open and have different rewards. Okay? Similar thing here. Also, Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr. When you do one of their in-game the map systems, the rifts or whatever they're called, at the end, you can click on different chests that have different things. So basically, you can target the type of reward you want. I really like that. I like that idea. It's different than other in-game systems already in Diablo 4. I'm not saying it's going to be the end-all be-all, but they're coming up with unique things to try now. We get to fight the council members as bosses. We're going to have different rewards, different uniques, sounds like some possibly new legendaries that we can farm in there as well. This is interesting. I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. We'll see how it plays out in practicality, but I like the idea.
Players jumping in on PTR, especially for and trying out Infernal Hordes and everything. What's kind of the top things that you really want them to kind of hone in on, give feedback on, check on for PTR?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely need feedback on the PTR. It's super critical to ensuring that the Infernal Hordes and all the rewards feel great for when the season launches. So here are some of the topics that we could use some help on. First off, just how is the Infernal Hordes gameplay? How do the boons and banes feel? Which ones do you like the most or the least? And these are types of things that'll help us fine tune that experience. Similarly, how is it acquiring compasses? Do you have too much, too few? How do you feel about upgrading them? That can help us really dial in kind of the access to the Infernal Hordes. We're also interested in learning how you feel about the difficulty and the gameplay length of the different tiers. Like I said at the top, we've got 8 different tiers of difficulty. And so, we have the ability to dial those in a little bit. We want to make sure that players can really replay this over and over again as they push into the end game, much like the pit. And then finally, of course, how are the rewards? Which do you like the most or the least? We can certainly make tweaks on the rewards to make sure they're as enticing as possible.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, and I know with Infernal Hordes, this is another alternative because, as you mentioned, you can jump into it starting with World Tier 3. So if you're actually leveling a new character, you can actually jump into Infernal Hordes, and you're able to earn experience. So in here, so you actually have the opportunity of jumping into Hell Tides if you want to. You can jump into Infernal Hordes. When you get to 85 or something like that, you can jump into pits. So there's now more or Nightmare Dungeons, obviously, when you're you're upgrading your glyphs and everything. So there's a lot of different variety now for being able to kind of level up a character, especially as you're going to that mid to late game phase of your character's journey, you could say.
Yeah, something else to bring up for the rewards for the Infernal Horde as well that I want to clarify. So Dan mentioned about, there's going to be uniques that are there that you can target farm in the Infernal Hordes. There's actually going to be a group of uniques and legendaries that you're able to target farm in that piece of content in the Infernal Hordes.
Yeah, so that's the second time they mentioned that. So there are uniques and legendaries that you can target farm inside the Infernal Hordes. This is really interesting because I get the idea. Okay, there are these specific uniques, right? By their mere nature of a unique, it's set apart from all the other types of loot, right? Because of what it is. It's unique, right? But I'm curious now, this is the second time they mention legendaries, because at the end of the day, what it breaks down to, legendaries are just the aspects you get to put in your codex that help you define the type of build you're running, right? So does that mean there are going to be certain legendary aspects that either are very rare outside of this, or even maybe only drop inside the Infernal Hordes event? I'm not against that, to be honest with you. I don't have a problem with that. One of the things that makes Marvel Heroes one of the greatest ARPGs of all time is the ability to target farm certain events or bosses for specific types of gear. There's specific, slot 1s or specific slot 3s or 4s or 5s or specific artifacts that you can target farm by targeting specific villains or events or whatever. And that gave you a really nice motivation and a checklist and focus to farm certain things. Taking it back to Diablo, I don't have a problem. I would not mind that at all if there are certain game areas where you can only farm certain types of gear if it's done well. So, we'll see.
So, you're also kind of similar to how the normal game works, how you can target farm a unique from a boss, but you can find it anywhere else in the world.
Okay.
It's the same way here where you can get these new uniques and legendaries anywhere, but you have a better chance, if you're targeting them in the Infernal Hordes.
So you have a higher chance. So he answered the question. That's good. So there's a higher chance of getting them inside the Infernal Hordes. But I'm wondering, and we'll see if they may mention it. We still haven't seen anything specifically for Season 5 yet. Let's see. Unique gameplay updates, Season 5, class updates. All right, we're going to get to all that. But they may mention it. There may be specific legendary aspects that only drop. Scratch that. There may be new specific legendary aspects they're implementing in the game to then be target farmed in the Infernal Hordes. Maybe. We'll see.
And this is the first time that we're doing this with a group of legendaries as well.
Yes.
We have legendary powers that are actually able to be target farmed in the Infernal Hordes, which is actually something a little bit new to the game. So I just wanted to clarify that. And in addition to that, we're also adding new uniques and legendaries to the rest of the game as well, in addition to this.
Yep.
So there's actually a very large group of uniques. I think it's over 50 or something.
Yeah, wait, there's over... There's over 50 new uniques.
I
And
love it.
Coming into
so
season
we have
5.
a lot coming.
It's
and
pretty extensive.
A lot more to talk about there too. So.
Yeah.
Oh my
this was
goodness.
just kind of a small preview of what people are looking at here, and they'll be able to.
You want build diversity? Yes, he said that. He said over 50 new uniques. Let me tell you something. Hey, how you doing, Electricasms? Let me tell you something, man. I honestly, you want build diversity? Sure, one thing they can do is add new core skills, change the skill tree, change the Paragon board, add more Paragon boards. But one of the most definitive and easiest ways you can add build diversity is add new uniques to the game. So, for example, we saw that one that for barbarians that changes mastery skills to core skills, gets rid of the cooldowns, but adds a fury cost. Now you've opened up several new builds just from that you can focus around a mastery skill becoming a core skill. And more than likely, if it works the way I am understanding it, it's changing it to a core skill. So now guess what? Any other items that give benefits to core skills or Paragon nodes or anything like that will affect your mastery skills if you have that item equipped. This is me speculating, because it converts those mastery skills to core skills. So by definition, they should benefit from core skill tags. This is, and look, that's just one item. If they've got over 50 new uniques coming, you're gonna hang on to your belt buckle, man. It's gonna be interesting. Okay, let me go back for a few seconds because I think that's what he said, right?
I want to clarify. So Dan mentioned about there's gonna be uniques that are there that you can target farm in the Infernal Hordes. There's actually going to be a group of uniques and legendaries that you're able to target farm in that piece of content in the Infernal Hordes. So you're also kind of similar to how the normal game works, how you can target farm a unique from a boss, but you can find it anywhere else in the world. It's the same way here, where you can get these new uniques and legendaries anywhere, but you have a better chance
and here we go.
Targeting them
Listen
in the
to
Infernal
this.
Hordes. And this is the first time that we're doing this with a group of legendaries as well. We have legendary powers that are actually able to be target farmed in the Infernal Hordes, which is actually something a little bit new to the game. So I just wanted to clarify that. And in addition to that, we're also adding new uniques and legendaries to the rest of the game as well, in addition to this.
Yep.
So there's actually a very large group of uniques. I think it's over 50 or something.
Yeah, wait, there's over 50 new uniques and legendaries coming.
50. Okay. So pause. There's over 50 new uniques and legendaries. Okay, so that's fine though. I mean, it's still a ton of items. And if you think about it, it's fine if it's a legendary, because legendary, I mean, that's a lot of new, right? Because think of how many legendary aspects are build defining. There's a ton of them. What are you basing that on, Electricasm? I mean, you may be right. Did you hear something? Or are you speculating? You may be right. I just haven't heard anything. This is the first news I'm hearing about it. You may have some inside information. The first statement, of what he said. Hang on. Let me go back. What did I miss? How far do I? Because I thank you for saying that. Oh, hang on. I might have missed. Let me go back and listen to that, because that's yeah. Okay, let's see.
How you can target farm a unique from a boss, but you can find it anywhere else in the world. It's the same way here, where you can get these new uniques and legendaries anywhere, but you have a better chance, if you're targeting them in the Infernal Hordes. And this is the first time that we're doing this with a group of legendaries as well. We have legendary powers that are actually able to be target farmed in the Infernal Hordes, which is actually something a little bit new to the game. So I just wanted to clarify that. And in addition to that, we're also adding new uniques and legendaries to the rest of the game as well, in addition to this. Yep. So there's actually a very large group of uniques. I think it's over 50 or something.
Yeah, wait, there's over There's over 50 new uniques and legendaries coming in.
I don't get it. What did I miss? What did he say that made you think they were reworked and not new? I'm sorry. I must have missed something. Yeah. No, and I mean, it may very well be the case. Maybe I'm misinterpreting something he said. I'll have to go back and look at it later what I can say, because I didn't see anything about where that could be misconstrued as reworked. It sounded like he was saying 50 new, unique, and legendaries, but if there was something he said about reworked, then I'm missing it. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah. Well, I'll go back and look at it when I have time to kind of really think on it.
We have a lot coming.
It's pretty extensive.
A lot more to talk about there too.
Yeah, this was just kind of a small preview of what people are looking at here, and they'll be able to jump in more. And
that's good stuff, though, man. It's good stuff.
Will be present there, and I know Adam is actually going to talk through a few additional ones here later. But yeah, Dan, this is awesome. Can't wait for players to jump in. I appreciate you informing and providing all the new updates and everything.
It's exciting.
Yep.
From the sweltering heat of Albany.
Albany.
They canceled.
Oh man, good stuff, guys.
I'm like, that's absolutely insane. But we will be seeing Dan again here later, especially when we get into Q&A at the end. But Dan, thank you again. I think
you're welcome. Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it. And then I think we're going to jump into a little bit of some balance and class updates with Mr. Adam.
Oh, here we go.
So,
yeah, let's get to it. We have a lot to talk about. I think we have, so the topics I'm going to be covering today, we've got unique items. We're going to be talking quite a bit about that. We've got some updates to mythic uniques that are very exciting and near and dear to my heart.
Mythic
and then
uniques?
We've got your standard class updates, a lot of stuff coming in Season 5.
So they don't call them Uber.
Here is that we are going to be releasing the patch notes soon, so I'm not going to be going over every single class update because there's a ton of them. Kind of similar to Season 4. I'm really only going to highlight just like one major thing for each class on the stream today, but you'll be able to see all the things that we're doing in the patch notes. There's a lot. So first, uniques. We have some quality of life updates here, really targeting how you get uniques that I'm pretty pumped about to announce here today. So, you can now target farm uniques from 3 additional sources. You can target them from obol vendors, hell tide chests, and whisper caches. These places where you've always been able to, kind of target farm certain gear slots and not been able to get uniques, and you're wondering, well, why couldn't we do that? That stinks. Well, now you can, and it's awesome, and I love it. So here, just to give some more detail into how this works, is basically when you open, like, I'm just gonna use hell tide chest as an example, right? If you want a specific unique weapon, let's say, you can just simply target the weapon hell tide chests, and you'll be able to have a chance to get only unique weapons for your class from those chests. So when you're targeting a specific thing, you just go to the the place that has that slot, whether it's the obol vendor, the hell tide chest, or the whisper cache, and you'll have a chance to get uniques that are targeted for that slot. So it kind of adds, while you're doing your normal grind of, doing the boss ladder, killing the boss, you can also be collecting obols, doing the hell tides, doing the whispers, and having a chance to target and get that unique as well from that content. And in addition to that, this is also true for mythic uniques. So I'll just give an example
uniques,
here of
basically.
Exactly how this works. Let's say that you want to get, Harlequin Crest, a Shaco, or Andariel's Visage. You don't want to target those helms. You could be targeting helms from Helltide, targeting helms, and when you turn in your obols to the obol vendor. And every time, if you get a mythic unique, you will get one of those 2 from that source.
Nice.
Now, also to clarify, let's say that you are like targeting gloves for some reason. We don't have any mythic unique gloves yet. Then if you were to get a mythic unique, you still can. It'll just give you a random one instead, since you can't target one in that slot. So pretty exciting way to target kind of the things that you want while you're farming for the things that you want.
It's going to be amazing. So
I'm
I know we've heard a lot of players going like, hey, we do the end game bosses a whole lot. We're trying to, and you can actually find them just in the open world as well. We've actually seen a lot of cases, especially with this past season, where players are jumping into Helltide and they're actually finding them there. But now it's an additional option.
Yeah, really.
Which I think will be a lot better for just overall finding some of the gear that everyone
As
really
someone who, for the last 3 seasons, my uniques have always come from the Beast and Ice, I am very selfishly invested in getting this into the game.
Yeah.
So, okay, one thing that needs to be said here, and I think this is kind of important. All these changes they're making to enable you to find uniques and Uber or mythic uniques from other sources are good if there is a if clause here, and that is, some of you may know what I'm going to say here, if they make uniques worth having again, right? Because you can't, or at least I haven't heard anything yet to change this, but you can't temper uniques. So a lot of uniques, except for a few situations, have really fallen behind the power curve. So you can't really... Okay, so we can get uniques. I'm not going to use them. You know, I would much rather have that item that has 3 really awesome stats for me, and I can craft on there raw elemental damage from my build and, you know, whatever, health or whatever it happens to be, right? Like things that I can... So legendaries are just so impactful now because of the tempering system. So maybe the solution is to rework some of the uniques to make them more intriguing, or maybe they make it to where you can temper them. But if you do that, does that make them just too powerful? I don't know. I don't know the answer, and I don't claim to have the solution. But I can recognize there's an issue there that minimizes the usefulness of uniques. So we'll have to see what they do going forward.
So,
all right, let's talk about other unique updates here. We're going to be making a whole lot of updates to our unique items, so I'm going to be covering a lot today.
Let's hear it.
Your feedback, and we're going to be doing some updates here. To clarify, before I go into what the updates are, you are going to be seeing these updates to like the way that we think about and our philosophy around uniques and how they work. You're going to be seeing them on the PTR for the new uniques coming into Season 5. Between the PTR and the launch, you'll be seeing in the Season 5 launch these updates to all of the existing uniques in the game. So when Season 5 comes out, basically all the uniques will get these updates that I'm about to talk about. But in the PTR, you're only going to really see this in the new uniques coming into the game. Yeah, there. So now we can go on to the next part. All right, so the team's been talking a lot. As many of you probably know, in Season 4, when we did Optimization 2.0, we didn't...
This is... All right, they're about to launch into it. It's funny that it's like they're reading our minds. This shows you guys they are listening. They may not always make the best decision with the information they get, but they're at least listening, right? So this shows, because we were just talking about this. This is what we're talking about. The role of uniques in Diablo 4. We were just talking about that. Let's see what they say about it.
Didn't really update the uniques almost at all in the game, right? We didn't do like a big pass to like cover how they exist in tempering or anything like that. So the team's been talking a lot about, you know, what is the role of uniques in Diablo 4? Like, how are they different from legendary items? Because they're kind of similar in that they both give you, you know, legendary power that's really strong. But how are they different, and what do we want them to be long term? And we've kind of landed on a few things here that I'm going to talk about. The first one is that, you know, they're powerful and exciting items that kind of direct players to builds, right? So imagine you're a Fireball Sork, you know, we've got 2 uniques for you. They really target you. You're going to feel a lot better playing with Fireball when you take them. You know, we want you to take these things and kind of level up your build. There are moments of like very large incremental power where you feel like you're, you know, filling in your fantasy as a class. The next one is that they're kind of pick up and play, right? They're easy to evaluate. The moment that you pick up the unique, you know whether it's a good one or a bad one. We want this to be a little bit different from legendary powers where, you know, you pick it up and you kind of go on a journey where, you know, you make it into something that's really good. A unique, you know when you pick it up whether or not it's one that you want to keep or one that you don't. And then the last one, pretty obvious, but was worth saying, you know, they're kind of more rare chase items that players don't see very often. You know, when you're going through the end game, you're seeing legendary powers a lot because, you know, we have a lot of reasons to give you a lot of them. You want to upgrade your codex. They are the way that you can, you know, get greater affixes and temper and masterwork them. So there's a reason why you want to churn and look through a lot of them. Uniques, you do want to get a good one, obviously, but not nearly as often as like a legendary power. We don't need that aspect of their design. So they are more rare, they're harder to get, but when you get it, it's kind of like a more exciting moment, like, did I get the perfect one? And then if not, you go and try and get the next one. So let's talk a little about our goals for the update. that we're going to be doing here. One of the things that we come to a lot that we talk about on the team is this idea. I like this quote of like players build their legendaries and players build around their uniques, right? Your legendary power is very, or your legendary items are very malleable. You know, the moment you get it, you don't know yet if it's going to be the best in slot item, but it has a chance to be. But they're also like able to fit in a lot of different ways. You can manipulate their stats via, you know, enchanting, via tempering, and masterworking. And so there's a lot that you can do with the item once you've gotten it. Whereas uniques, they're a lot more static, right? The stats on them can't change. You can't really manipulate them very much. And sometimes they have maybe qualities to them or stats that are a little bit inconvenient. And you got to figure out, like, how do I overcome this little detriment or make my build into where it's a plus instead of a detriment, right? Like, it's a fixed thing that you have to build around, which is very different than a legendary. Also, ideally, we want players to run 2 to 4 uniques in their build. You know, one of the difficult parts.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard them mention this before. I was curious, and this is something that I had thought about previously.
I'm afraid I'm rather preoccupied.
All right, Tridine, you have a good afternoon, man. Enjoy. Happy birthday to your nephew. You guys have a wonderful time, man. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the lurk. I was curious to see if at some point they would not even necessarily like in this video, right? Just in general, I wasn't sure what their design philosophy is. What do you expect from players when it comes to uniques? Do you expect every build to have one? Do you expect some builds to not have any? Do you ever expect every build to have multiple? Well, obviously this is eye-opening to me. They want players to have multiple uniques, some more than others, but every build ideally will have multiple uniques. I like that. If you think about Diablo 2, not all of them, most Diablo builds had some kind of elaborate rune word item in it, right? Or a unique, right? Or both, right? Which I kind of look at rune words as almost like uniques, right? So I like that. I like that design philosophy. So we'll see what they do with this.
So this, and I think we're going to be continuing to work on with the balance and design of uniques, is that, you know, we want you to run some, but we don't want you to run all of them in your build, right? It's very easy to go one way or the other. I can very easily make you run no uniques, and I can very easily make you run like every slot is a unique by making them really, really crazy, right? We want these to fit in such a way that you're running some of them, the ones that are applicable to your build, or maybe some spicy ones here or there that you try and, you know, like make in a special way to work with you, but not all of them. I would say right now, like on live in Season 4, players are running more like 0 to 2 in their build, so it's not as much as we want, which means that we want to update them to make them a little bit more attractive. And another one is we kind of want to move away from these generic fits-all build styles of uniques, right? One thing that I know a lot of players have talked about in the past that we've had is that some of our uniques are just so generically good, and this is particularly scary for
Harlequin Quest.
What we call a generic unique, which is one where every class can use it. And so, like, if every class can use it and every build can use it, and it's better than like the build-specific or class-specific stuff.
I will say, so I agree with what he's talking about here. Well, I'll let him finish, but the idea that some uniques are just like super strong, like the Harlequin Crest, for example, that's fun in a sense that, ooh, that's a great chase item. But in a sense, it's also boring, right? In a sense, it's also boring when you have a just super duper uber unique that if you get it, you're going to use it on every character. I think that's kind of boring. My opinion.
Then it just becomes best in slot for everybody, and we've taken away your agency and your choice because you're just going to target this item and ignore everything else, right? Yeah. The only items in the game that we really want to fit that role are like mythic uniques, where they're across all classes and they're so good, but they're also extremely rare, so you're very excited to see them whenever you see one. But all the other regular uniques, we don't want to fit that design space. So we're going to be trying to move away from these ones and readjust them and redesign them a little bit where they fit into all kinds of builds, and kind of target something that they're really good at or that's a little bit more unique about them and make them really good at that and less generically good at everything.
It's funny because everyone's in the chat going like, oh, rip Shaco, but we just literally, we just said,
Mythics is not what I'm, they're a different beast
okay,
here.
So they're not changing that.
Yeah.
So there you go. For those of you that like that.
It's not better, honestly. All right, so
here we go.
Preamble,
Unique
right? What are we
updates.
actually doing? So we're gonna be doing 2 big updates to uniques. The first one is we're going to be increasing the upper power of the unique effects and the roll range. We're going to be doing increasing the range from an average of 10 to 20 rolls, which I'll explain in a second. And then we're also going to be increasing the upper power of like how much you can get from the rolls. This is really just buffing pretty much most uniques across the board to compete with the new world of legendary powers that we live in, since they got extra power juice to them. Now uniques are catching up. So as an example here, I gave, if an older unique, like one on live, gave you around 40 to 80% multiplicative damage, that's going to go up to like 40, 100, maybe 120, maybe even higher. Really, the mandate is as high as we can get away with without breaking things. And then we're also going to be increasing the roll range. This is like the number of possible rolls it can do from an average of 10 to 20. So it'll be a little bit harder to get basically, what we're targeting here is the discrepancy inside of a unique is a little bit wider, where the difference of like a low roll and a high roll is a little bit bigger, but the high rolls are way better than they were before. Okay. So they're more exciting when you get them really good, but it's a little bit harder to get there. And the next one is going to be updating the affixes, the actual stats on the uniques. We're doing a pass on all of them, and this is kind of what we're doing. The first thing is we're changing their stats to fit with the Season 4 updates, right? We're doing the things like we did before of simplifying stats, getting rid of super conditional things, making them just more generically understood and good. We're also going to be adding tempering stats. We're open to really adding whatever we want that makes the unique fit the fantasy. So as an example here, a lot of two-hand weapon uniques have a problem where they're all basically competing against bonus projectiles as an affix, because you can just temper that onto your weapons, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to those kind of situations, we'll just slap the bonus projectiles on that unique, and now, it's no longer competing in that way, or we have to kind of dance around it. We can just put it. We're also open to the idea, by the way, of breaking slot restrictions, kind of like we did in Season 2. So you can have bonus projectiles or other things on other slots. Like uniques are where we get to play a little bit and just really make something thematic and cool and build defining. And so they have less restrictions than everything else.
Okay.
And the other one is we're updating the stat power levels and the effects. So the idea here that we're thinking, and this is particularly nuancey when it comes to generic uniques, but stats that kind of fit the theme or the fantasy of the unique are going to be like way stronger than your normal stats, right? So as an example, if you have a unique that's targeting fire damage, maybe it's like a meteor or firewall on the sorcerer, whatever it may be, that plus fire damage can be juiced up to be really, really high. But stats that are more like generically good, like, attack speed, max life, resist all, those ones aren't going to be juiced unless it fits the theme of the unique really well. Right, so we have an example here of one that has been a problem for us in the past. I kind of want to go through how we would think about it. I'm not going to say exactly what we're going to do here to Tybalt's Will, but kind of give you our thought process, right? So Tybalt's Will, as many of you know, in previous seasons, was kind of a problem where it just became best in slot for almost every build.
Yeah.
The famous line we say is that it was damage on pants, which was impossible to get almost anywhere else in the game. And it turned out damage on pants was really, really good, right? It also gave you damage reduction, one of the best stats in the game. And then it also gave you it also solved resource in many ways for you as well, right? It gave you a bunch of resource whenever you became unstoppable, which wasn't too hard to do. So it was doing a lot of things at once. It gave you, a very unique effect with putting damage on a slot that you don't get it. It also gave you resource, which is something that every class wants, very heavily.
And Adam, it gave you 3 extra promotions.
And 3 extra potions. Yes. Now that one, that's all right. But yeah, so, the way that we would tackle this one, to give you an idea, is like, we either would kind of pick, do we want to focus this on the damage aspect, that it's damage on a non-damaged slot? Or maybe we focus on the resource aspect and like double down on that and make that really powerful and really cool. Or we do like a little bit of both, but if we do both, then it's not going to give you the defenses that another pants slot would give, right? Basically, in our mind, we'd be like, we want to give the minimum amount of defense where it's not just like a trash item because it has nothing. But then after that, not so much. And you're going to have to solve your defenses in other slots or somewhere else to justify getting the damage on this slot, is how we would think about it, right? And so we're having a lot of conversations now. I don't think we're going to nail every single item perfectly in this first pass. So we're really looking for feedback when you jump into Season 5 and beyond, and we'll be adjusting them. But I kind of want to give you an idea of what we're doing and kind of what we're thinking and targeting with this. So I think we can move on. So Mythic Uniques are getting a facelift here.
Look at that!
Lots of updates.
Oh, Mythic Uniques are going to be purple now. Oh, look at that.
Here, Mythic Uniques are now going to be truly mythic. They're getting a new color beam when they drop on the ground. They're coming out with an awesome new sound that you're going to hear in a little bit. We've got new item UI that you can see, so they have a different color. They really are going to look and feel like the special items that they are. And we have a video here to show you the sound and what it looks like on the ground.
Look at that.
You can see here, this beam looks, very different than anything else. Isn't that sound, that echoey sound?
I love it.
Sounds like a... I don't know. It sounds like you're murdering a bunch of like church organs or something like that.
Oh man, it's great.
But yeah, so when this thing drops, you're definitely gonna know when you got one. No more like sifting through your uniques to see if it's actually one of the mythics. You'll know right away. So we're really excited about this. Super happy it was able to get.
Yeah, about time. I agree.
All right, and last but not least, let's talk about class updates. I'm going to cover some generic things across all classes and then go through a little bit of each one. Again, this is not going to be nearly close to everything that we're doing, just a little taste, a teaser for what you can expect to see. Let's start with things across all classes. One systemic update we're doing to the game is invulnerability skills are now going to start their cooldown when the invulnerability ends instead of when the skill begins. This is really to prevent things like infinite invulnerability and really to open up design
That's
space
understandable.
For us on the team,
they need to do that.
More comfortable adding things like invulnerable duration to skills or cooldown reduction more liberally and things like that, where we don't have to worry about this. This is very similar to what our previous games have done and some other games do, and we think it'll be a good fit here. The idea isn't really to make it that you can't be invulnerable very often. It's just to prevent 100% uptime, where you actually break down the combat of the game and you're not interacting with enemies anymore. The next one is we reviewed Monster CC, and we generally reduced the CC duration and frequency across the board. So, if you were frustrated by getting frozen for 1,000,000 years and then dying, that'll happen much less often. And also to help with this, potions can be used while CC'd, even while you're stunned.
Thank you. I'm glad they did that.
While you're frozen standing there and everybody's around you trying to kill you, you can at least spam potion a little bit and maybe survive sometimes. Next one, we've got some bug fixes. These are some of the notable ones. We do have more coming in, but these are the ones I wanted to call out. Rogue Victimize is no longer going to be double dipping on its damage, which was resulting in a lot more multiplicative, or a lot more damage really than it was supposed to have. Damage over time effects were getting double the amount of percent damage that they were supposed to. And Skeleton Reapers were getting both Book of the Dead bonuses when the second option was selected. And again, this is just a little bit of a preview.
Is that something that you noticed, Voltan, or was that not something you were? I don't know anything about Necros, but the Skeleton Reapers getting both Book of the Dead bonuses when a second option is selected. Is that something that you benefited from? Or Electric Asms or anybody? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think Electric Asms was doing Necro too for a while. Interesting, okay.
But we have other bug fixes coming, but these are some of the bigger ones we want to call out. All right, now let's get to the classes. So Barbarian, they have a new unique coming in. This is the Unbroken Chain. This is for you support Barbarians, or really just more defensively oriented ones. Basically what this is going to do is create a connection between Steel Grasp and Iron Maelstrom, where you'll be able to cast Iron Maelstrom a lot more often as you use Steel Grasp. And also, enemies damaged by Iron Maelstrom are going to be doing less damage for a little while.
Interesting.
So the idea here is you could debuff enemies, debuff those bosses, and make them do less damage to you, so you can survive better.
Nice.
And next, the Rogue. Flurry is going to be getting a lot of big updates. We updated the enhancement and both of their upgrades. So you'll be able to see kind of a theme here going on. Before, you would damage a crowd control or vulnerable enemy for the enhancement, then you would heal. Now, when Flurry hits an enemy, you can just make them vulnerable. So actually, Flurry becomes a vulnerable generator here, which is pretty exciting. And it'll also deal more damage as you hit vulnerable enemies. Stacks up really high. So the idea here is with Flurry builds, you want to make everything vulnerable, and then just keep whacking them with Flurry and gain a bunch of damage. And now Improved Flurry is changing. Before it was about vulnerable spreading, but now baseline you can just generate vulnerable, so we don't need that anymore. So now Improved Flurry is going to actually give you a dash. So now, similar to things like the Shred on the Druid, you can kind of dash to your target, and also every time you cast Flurry now it's going to heal you. So it's going to be a lot more mobile, a lot more awesome. Very cool. And then last but not least, to compete with a dash, what could we do with Advanced Flurry? Well, we can just add a stupid amount of damage and resource cost reduction. So before, you had to evade through an enemy and then do damage with one cast and stun enemies. Now, as you spam Flurry, it'll basically get a big damage bonus, and its energy cost will go down, which will let you be able to spam it even more often. So the idea here is you just want to be using it over and over and over again, and it'll get stronger and stronger and ramp up pretty heavily as you go.
I'm excited for Flurry Rogues.
Yeah,
very excited. Yeah,
Flurry
they're going to
Rogues
be
are
like
getting a
little
lot of love.
hummingbirds around, bouncing around, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, ironically, I'm playing Flurry this season, so I'm always off by one. Like, I always play the thing, and then like, oh, we're gonna massively make it better next time. But it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Next, Druid, Shepherd's aspect. We've gotten feedback from players now for a while now about how Shepherd's aspect kind of dominates the meta for Druids because you're basically both. It's both not great from a design and a balance perspective. On the design side, we're telling you to put companions on your bar, and then they're actually just buffing you. So, we make this companion build fantasy, but it's actually just making the player better. And then on the power side, you're basically just slotting 3 skills on your bar with your companions, and then not really caring about buffing them or using them because they're just kind of there as proxies to make you better. So we've changed it now where, basically it's going to be about the companions. So your companion skills are just going to deal damage for every companion that you have. So, the bigger your zoo, the better your zoo is going to perform.
I'm not sure that's what they mean, though, Electric Asms. I see what you're saying. This is a reworked item. That's why they're saying before and after. Whereas that's a new item, right? So this is an example of one of the new 50 new items they're giving us. Unbroken Chain, that's a completely new item. Whereas this is just a rework. So I don't think this is what they're talking about when they're saying new items. I think they're more leaning towards the Unbroken Grasp. You see what I'm saying? I think that's what they mean. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Play the thing, and then like, oh, we're gonna massively make it better next time. But it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Next, Druid, Shepherd's aspect. We've gotten feedback from players. So we've changed it now where, basically it's going to be about the companions. So your companion skills are just going to deal damage for every companion that you have. So, the bigger your zoo, the better your zoo is going to perform. And to compensate players, we're doing some pretty massive buffs to Druid skills baseline to compensate. So, your skills are just going to be getting that damage baseline, and in many cases a little bit more. So you can check that out when you see the PTR notes.
I do like that what they're doing with this item. Like, it gives you an idea, and he kind of mentioned it, where they're getting away from they don't want players to have pets on your bar just to buff yourself, right? And I agree with that. Like, I think there are certain situations maybe when pets can be a support supplement to you, but I think there's a lot of times when players want to have pets to actually have pets be impactful on their own. And so I think that's good. That's good. We may see more stuff like that.
The PTR patch notes after this. But we basically just buffed everything across the board and made it so that Shepherds isn't required anymore. Next, for the Sorceress, this is Axial Conduit. I'm really excited about this unique.
See, here's another new
unique. So Chain
item.
Lightning builds. You finally have a unique that really talks to you. And you can see here
Chain
kind of
Lightning!
our stats and that new philosophy I told you about. You have chance to double cast Chain Lightning on pants instead of just a weapon. So
I like that.
Pretty cool.
I may do a Chain Lightning build.
So basically, the way that this works, we're going to have a video, but I'm going to explain to you how this works because it actually changes your skill pretty significantly. So now when you cast Chain Lightning, the way it's going to work is it's going to cast and bounce on enemies just like before, but then it's going to come back to you and orbit you a little bit. And then it's going to go out and hit another enemy, and then come back to you and orbit, and then come out and then go out and do another enemy and come back. It's going to do that back and forth.
Oh man, yeah, pets were horrible in Season 1.
It's going to drain some of your mana. And after it drains so much mana, after coming back 10 times, the bolt is actually going to explode for a ridiculous amount of lightning damage on enemies.
Oh my goodness.
So there's a mini game here where basically... and by the way, you can cast multiple Chain Lightnings when this is out. You're basically going to be like running a gambit here, and the mini game is you want to stack as much resource regeneration as you can so that your lightning bolts can survive being drained over and over and bouncing everywhere so that they can last to their explosion and do a ton of damage to enemies. One thing I want to call out here also is that because it drains mana, resource cost reduction won't work on that drain. You're actually going to want to focus on gaining resource, which is a little bit different and kind of makes this build a little special, I think, and unique compared to other builds based around resource. So now let's see it in action here. You'll see what one cast looks like, and then I think we'll see what it looks like when you spam it. So you can see here, it circles you, goes and hits enemies, circles you, goes and hits enemies, and then it does a big explosion at the end that we've tuned the damage to be pretty high. See there? So
oh, wow.
So, oh, wait.
That's a cool effect.
Do we have one where it casts a bunch of times? Maybe we don't.
Oh,
there we go. There we go. Yeah. So see here, you can see that, as you go, like, keep going, and they explode a bunch of times. Another thing I want to point out is if you're hugging enemies at melee range, as it's circling you, it will also hit enemies. So you now have a way to like really maximize your damage by hugging bosses and such. The damage goes way up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So next, last but not least, the Necromancer. So we got some feedback. We've had this for a while and felt this on the team where, the Golem we really love. We love our Golem boys. And, but sometimes it can be frustrating where you tell the Golem to go somewhere and then it kind of takes a while to lug his butt over there and do his slam or his shout or whatever, and, things can get in the way. And so we've kind of upgraded him a little bit. I'll let the video speak for himself here. But so now you can see your Golem will Hulk smash and just jump on enemies and slam them down. So,
that's kind of neat.
This will work with all of your Golem types, by the way, not just the Iron Golem, but now your Golem is going to leap to the area that you tell him to go and then cast its ability. So we're really excited about this. Shout out to Charles Dunn who got this change in, and our animators who helped us out. But we're really pumped for it. It looks amazing.
That does look cool.
Yeah. So those were the class and balance changes. And I know we jumped a slide there. How dare you, production? No, we are, as they wave to me like, oh, I'm sorry. We do want to go into some quality of life updates. We do have a significant amount of quality of life updates we do want to go through that will be available.
Let's go. Let's see
season 5. And you guys will actually be able to check this out in the PTR. So now we can go to the next slide, where we do want to talk about some Helltide and Whisper updates specifically. So I know this has been kind of at least it's been a pain point for me, and I've heard it's been a pain point for others, is that as you guys are going through Helltide, there are Whisper objectives within there to help you with your progression on your Whisper bar. But the issue with the ones in Helltide is that it can sometimes take quite a while to do.
This is great.
Sometimes players would have to leave the Helltide to go to another area.
Yes,
to complete some of these Whisper
I've noticed that.
So we are optimizing this to ensure that they don't take nearly as much time. The ideal goal is to get a bunch of value within those 15 minutes to potentially end up getting a full entire Whisper 10-point.
This is something that I think is going to be a great quality of life. This was an issue I had where I'm in Helltides farming for gear, but I also want to complete Whispers so that I can make some money. The problem is it took you so long to do Whispers that you were almost better off going and running 2 random Tree of Whispers dungeons and get them done in like 10 minutes rather than take 45 minutes to do a Tree of Whispers set of quests in the Helltides. And so it just didn't feel efficient, right? So I'm glad they're addressing this. This is a great change. Now you'll be able to get approximately 10 points, so a full Tree of Whispers cycle in one area of a Helltide and in about 15 minutes from what they're saying. That's great.
Bar within 15 minutes
in
one
you can do a full
zone.
Whisper every Helltide.
Yeah, so that'd be it'll be a huge help because I know at least for me, I've always had to like kind of leave a Helltide and like kind of try to knock some of that out. Well, especially help for players that are looking for additional gold because Whisper caches have always been great sources of gold. And now, as Adam mentioned, you can also use Whisper caches to target farm.
Ooh, baby.
So it's keeping things more optimized for players, which we know will be way better there. The next thing we do want to talk about is also Baneful Hearts. I know this may not sound like a huge quality of life thing or a buff of any sort, but we have noticed that players have had a lot of Baneful Hearts within their inventory.
I agree with this.
We want to make these a little bit more valuable. So
I've got a bazillion of them.
We know that players will still have a significant amount, but maybe not hundreds and hundreds like some people have within their inventory. But players should not have any type of issues regarding having a ton of these Baneful Hearts. But we are tweaking the drop rate because they were dropping a little too much there. Tempering.
Yeah.
Here
we go. Tempering.
Very, I guess like brought up topic. Well, and like
people like talking about tempering.
It's pretty popular.
Yeah, so I want to take a minute to talk about tempering and kind of how the design team sees it and kind of what we're happy with, what we think could be better, and some adjustments we'll be making in Season 5. So first, high level, kind of how we see tempering. We really think that it's important that items have an endpoint where players know kind of that the item is done and that they're not hoarding lots of them forever on the chance that they can all be good, right? One of the big key goals of Season 4 was that we didn't want you saving 1 million items in your stash space. And while we know that, bricking an item never feels great, we do need that to be something that's possible to do in the game so that you know when the journey is done and you're not...
Thank you. Okay. We're going to get to this, but one of the concerns I had was them making it too easy to get that uber endgame piece of gear because they don't want to upset people who don't want items to be bricked. Now, I'm not saying that it's perfect the way it is, but I think it needs to be possible for you to brick your gear. Can there be improvements made? Sure. They need to look at that, and we're probably going to talk about that with the tempering here. But if you make it too easy to get that in-game piece of gear through the crafting system without bricking, then it shortens the gameplay loop, right? Right. See, and that's the thing, Andy, right? I think it's okay for players to have some autonomy and some control, but ARPGs have always been about that RNG, right? And so that needs to be a big part of the game, the RNG and the drops and what you get when you're done with an item on its journey. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Just holding on to an item forever. So that part we actually think is working very well, where, an item is done and you try and go get another one. And so you're always interested in items and trying to, have that game loop go in the game indefinitely. Or until you feel like your character is maxed out on its power. But we do agree with players that, the RNG right now is like completely out of their hands, which doesn't really feel great. You get so many tries basically to roll, and then that's kind of it, and you're done, and it doesn't feel great. So we're looking at ways in the future for players to have more control over that RNG so that, you have more ways to maybe manipulate the tempering or get the odds in your favor and do other things like that.
I wouldn't mind if something that I would love to see them do. Maybe keep the number of tempers you have, the 5 tempers you have, besides the 2 free ones for each section. Maybe do it very similarly to where the Diablo 3 Mystic works, or even in the Occultist in Diablo 4, where when you re-roll something, you have the option to keep what you previously rolled. So that way, if I roll % damage, now I want to re-roll again because I'm trying to get % cold damage, which can roll higher, but I don't want to get, damage to distant enemies when I'm playing a close build, right? So now if I re-roll, I may go from having damage to having damage to distant. And now I'm done, right? Maybe make it to where you can keep the one you rolled or pick the new one, like you can with the Occultist, like you can in Diablo 3 Mystic re-rolling, something like that. You still limit the number of tries you have because, look, how many times do you roll 2, 3, or 4 times in a row and get the same thing, right? So it's going to happen. You're still going to brick items, but at least you have a better chance. I think that could be a happy medium there.
One update that's going to be coming in Season 5, it won't be in the PTR, but we're targeting for launch, is that, we've got a lot of feedback that it feels so bad when, you get that, like, triple greater affix, and it has the same number of rolls, and then you brick it, and then you have to try and go get another one. So in Season 5, to help with this, as your item gets better, basically, that you find, you're going to have more chances to temper it, so a much better chance to get the one that you want. Basically, the way it'll work is you're going to basically get 1 extra roll per greater affix that you have. So, you have 1 greater affix, 1 roll, 3 rolls.
And again, just to clarify, this is not in the PTR, but it will be in for the launch of Season 5 in itself.
All right.
And again, just to reiterate, we are still looking at ways to help out that experience within tempering, as we've noted. We agree with players that it doesn't always feel great. And so you guys should expect to hear more updates to tempering after we get through Season 5 for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, weapons.
Yeah, so I'll talk about this one a little bit. We took a look
at this chart.
Yeah, this chart. We took a look at inherent affixes on weapons, and we found that, a lot of inherent affixes like damage to distant or some other ones were a little too conditional and didn't get the update, in Season 4 that we wanted. So we went back.
Does anybody else feel like overpowered damage went from being super strong to now it's just basically trivial? It's whatever. Maybe there's something in the middle they can go with. Maybe they can make overpowered damage a little better without it being too strong and being totally useless. I don't know.
And made them a little bit more generically useful and better across more builds. So we have a little chart here, but you can see kind of this is going to be the new inherent affixes on all the different weapon types. So we've made quite a few adjustments here. As an example, vulnerable damage is on bows, and dot damage is on axes, which I believe vulnerable on bows is new. But yeah, so we made quite a few updates. We basically just looked at the matrices of everything and kind of adjusted it to see what makes sense. So basically, you're just going to have things that actually impact your builds much more often on the weapons that you want. And as another result of this update, we are also looking at what weapons classes can use, and we updated them a little bit to try and let more classes use more weapons. We want players to be able to create interesting builds, play the way that we want, and so we want to open up these things as much as we can in our designs. So now druids are going to be able to use two-hand polearms, one-hand swords, and daggers. Sorceresses are going to be able to use one-hand swords and maces. And necromancers are going to be able to use, I think it's maces and axes, actually.
Yeah, despite this necromancer pictured right here that is not using, it's using a two-handed sword, but you can already use a two-handed sword, but not using and the necromancer here, I know it's supposed to say all maces and axes as opposed to all swords, so.
But yeah, basically we're going to be opening up these classes to use more weapon types.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Electric Asms. I was just kind of going on. I kind of went on a tangent a little bit, thinking about other ways to make tempering feel better, right? But yes, they're specifically talking about. Yeah. So yeah, that's right. I wasn't specifically saying the same thing that they were, right?
And then also some of the uniques are going to be updated for the classes as well. So the Butcher's Cleaver can now be used for Necros, and Sorcerers
Butcher's
can
Cleaver.
use Doomgreener and Azure Wrath now.
Yeah, Sorcerers can use Azure Wrath, kind of like D2.
Yep, fits their theme very well too. So I think that'll be pretty cool.
Some additional quality of life updates. Now we're going to talk about some endgame bosses. As I have experienced, as Adam has experienced earlier, as he mentioned in the stream, we are making changes to the Beast and Ice. You guys will no longer have to make a sigil to summon the Beast and Ice, which is a huge quality of life update.
That's kind of cool.
The Beast will now live in a standard dungeon. The crawl to get to the Beast and Ice is much, much shorter now. It's going to be more similar to what we've seen with some of the other endgame bosses. And then at the same time, Eternal players that have maybe already built out some of these sigils,
like this.
Make sure to keep you in mind so you can still use the sigils to fight the boss. You won't need summoning materials. You can just use the sigil right there in the boss room in itself. And this no longer requires sigil dust to actually summon the Beast and Ice. So some big changes to the Beast and Ice to help out that whole entire feel, especially when you're really target farming the Beast and Ice. Sometimes it was kind of brutal to have to go through the whole entire dungeon each and every time.
So many times.
Yeah. So next we have Varshan. Varshan, the body parts are pretty much being reduced to one. I know it was eating up a lot of inventory space. It was kind of hard to manage at times and everything. So we're optimizing this, making this better. So now you'll just need one body part to essentially summon Varshan going forward, starting with Season 5. And one big thing that we're going to call out here before, and this is kind of like the cherry on top, let's actually just play the clip and see if people actually notice it. And if not, then we'll call it out.
What could be different this time?
Poor Duriel.
Yeah, Mythic Unique maybe?
Oh.
No, that's not it.
Oh. Good gear, though.
Yeah,
But something that is interesting here is the Cauldron has reappeared.
Oh, you can redo it.
Just resummon him again.
You can instantly resummon.
You can now resummon all the endgame bosses
Yes.
without needing to run out of the dungeon.
Reset the
Go back
dungeon.
in. So this will help a whole lot. Will make things way better in terms of like optimizing.
That's
when you're
great.
for time and everything.
Oh my
Especially when you're
goodness.
a party and you're like, everyone leave the dungeon so I can reset and stuff like that. Now you'll be able to do that immediately for all the end game bosses, which is a huge feature that players have been asking for. So that will be also incorporated into Season 5. So lots and lots of changes for Season 5. One other thing, I did want to call out regarding tempering, because just to clarify, because we've got some people going like, oh, I don't understand like the greater affix stuff, like in terms of additional rolls. If you have a 1-star greater affix,
You get 6
get
rolls.
One additional roll. If you have like a 3-star or 4-star or something, you would get 3 or 4.
I understood what he meant.
The amount of stars that you actually specifically have on your item.
Yeah, I think it goes up to.
Does everybody understand what they're talking about? So basically, if you're tempering an item, you get the 2 free ones, 1 for each section, and then you get 5 rerolls. With an 8 or greater affix, if it has 1 star, you'll get 6 rerolls total. With 2 stars, you'll get 7 rerolls, and with 3, you'll get 8 rerolls. That's what they're talking about.
3.
Yeah,
so
three. Sorry,
more.
yeah. Four is more specific. Four is uniques. Yeah. If thinking about razor plate or something like that. But
I know, right, Electrigasms?
Call out is that this is actually going to be retroactive. So for players that still have maybe an item that they may have potentially bricked and it's sitting in their stash, just for like memento purposes or anything like that.
Or whatever,
yeah, when your
that's
character does
nice.
move to
There you
Eternal,
go.
If it was a greater affix, like a 3-star greater affix or something like that, you will end up getting those 3 additional rolls afterwards. So that will appear after these changes actually are implemented with the start of Season 5. It'll just be on your Eternal character, obviously, because your seasonal character will move to Eternal. As I fix my earpiece, that's like falling out.
Oh, no.
But one other thing I did want to call out as well for Season 5, we have some really big like accessibility options that are being added to the actual game, and we really, really need some testing on this in the Season 5 PTR. This is actually called out in our blog. We would really love if players can actually check them out, test them out, provide feedback. I will note, we aren't planning, despite it being in the Season 5 PTR, we aren't planning on these features actually launching with Season 5. We really want to take the feedback, make them, better for when they are ready. And right now, I think that the plan would be that they would be ready for Season 6. But it's important for us to be able to get that feedback. So we really need people to actually test out these specific features. We have like an auto pin feature, we have a compass feature, and then we have like a audio navigation assistance feature that is coming within some of these accessibility features for Season 5. So really important for people to kind of like jump in, check it out, give us feedback, and then you'll see those in Season 6 after the PTR is kind of over. But that is kind of like a huge wrap-up of all the stuff that is coming for the Season 5 PTR, and even a little bit more of even some of the stuff for Season 5 itself. We do want to take some questions, and we still have Dan on the line from the burning hells of Albany to answer any questions that we may have. But I know we have a question specifically teed up, so if you have questions, please ask them in Twitch chat, which is where we have live chat going on right now.
We'll see what they say on the
questions.
questions.
To get through as many as possible.
Cool.
But first question I believe we have is, because I teed up this question. Are there any new class buffs coming to Season 5? Specifically, if Adam can answer, Druid and Sorceress. Because I know, we hear you, everyone, about Druid and Sorceress. I know we talked a little bit about it here, but if you can like expand on it.
I mean, I'm loving my Sorcerer.
Yes, there are new class buffs coming to Season 5, covered it a little bit. I think one they call out that people talk a lot about right now is, how barbarians in particular are pretty strong, and then, the classes that can't get as far as they can in the pit, feels kind of bad. there's a lot to chew on there, but I think the short answer is yes, we hear you, and we're going to be looking to beef these things up. We do have some specific ways that we want to be targeting these things, and there's a lot of history to it. Barbarians in particular are tougher to balance. I think I've talked about this on stream a little bit before.
Because of the 4 weapons.
Because of their arsenal system, they have more items. Anytime that we mess with, and we've messed with like the underlying systems of the game very heavily in the last year, right? Season 2, we updated all the combat math, which of course impacts items, which impacts character power. We've updated in Season 4 all of itemization, which obviously directly impacts the arsenal system very heavily. So when we do these large shakeups, it's a lot more difficult in a short amount of time to get everything exactly perfect of how the combinatorics of those effects are going to impact classes, right? So that's one end of it. Another end is what we're trying to do, and we started with this in Season 4. Is we're looking at the other class mechanics, and we want to kind of beef them up and give them the treatment that we kind of gave with the Necromancer in the Book of the Dead. In Season 4, we actually wanted to try this as an experiment. Like, hey, the Book of the Dead, the minions, the sacrifice bonuses, they're what really make Necromancer feel really cool and special and unique. So we're going to, try and catch that up, so to speak, to the arsenal system on the Barbarian. And not only just increase the numbers, right? Because just increasing the numbers is kind of...
This is interesting, and I think this is a good idea. I don't know how many Marvel Heroes fans we have here right now, but that was something. So if you guys noticed, whenever there was a class that kind of fell behind the power curve in Marvel Heroes, one of the things they would do when they gave them their 52 review, when they gave them their big revamp, they would a lot of times they would rework some of the skills, and one of the skills almost inevitably that was reworked for them would be like a SIG, if a class had a signature skill. That really helped to make a lot of classes kind of bring them up, as well as like working on survivability or something like that, right? Depending on the class. But that's kind of what they're talking about a little bit there. Their signature ability, which is like the like the Book of the Dead or the other classes' version of those things, right? So interesting.
Kind of easy. We even did that in the mid-season patch. If you look at the Druid boons, we increased them by 50%,
the
doubled them
boons.
in many cases.
Right.
But we think to really help solve that on a fantasy and even just a design perspective, we want to like overhaul and really look at these mechanics and make them way better and more thematic to classes. So we don't have anything to announce today for Season 5, but that's something more long-term that we're doing to help that problem in the future. In the short term, we are, looking at, fixing the issues with these various classes, buffing them up in different ways, making different builds and other things viable and trying to keep that parity. We're also looking at, bringing down the outliers of power with the Barbarian in different ways to make sure that they have more parity with other classes as well. But that's kind of our short and long-term vision of where we want this to be.
Awesome. I know we have a question specifically, and this is something I've seen a few times regarding Season 5 for Dan, because Infernal Hordes, people are seeing this gameplay and they're hearing about like, okay, like can I play this on Eternal and Seasonal? Can I play this? Is this like an ongoing thing going forward? Like what can players expect, Dan?
Sure, yeah. So with Season 5, we wanted to build out the end game. And because we're building out the end game, we wanted to make sure that any of the end game things we're putting in are on both Seasonal and Eternal.
Yep, good.
And so in this PTR, you'll be able to test out the Eternal version of Infernal Hordes. And so any of the rewards you get from it, all that's Eternal. So all players are going to benefit from it.
Nice. There you go.
Awesome. Yeah, so all players will benefit from it, and as Dan mentioned, it's a new endgame feature, so it's like something that will be
I love it. I think it's great. We'll see how it feels, but it looks really good.
So yeah, players can expect to jump in Infernal Hordes going forward, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, the feedback is going to be incredibly important during this PTR. As Dan mentioned beforehand, all the specific items that we're really hoping to get, feedback on.
And like Tridine mentioned, thank goodness they're doing a PTR, because that'll help tune this before the season starts.
Waves and stuff
great.
Like that will be really important for us during this specific moment. What is this is another Season 5 question, and hopefully you might be able to answer this, Dan. This from Lucky Luciano. Shout out, Diablo partner. What is the equivalent pit level of the 8th difficulty of like the Infernal Hordes? Pit level, I guess, or Nightmare Dungeon, or Monster level.
Yeah, you're making me do math here.
Yeah, we just adjusted pit levels.
Yeah,
too, so
tier 8 of the Infernal Hordes is going to be equivalent to about monster level. I think it's 180 to 200.
Ooh,
so
buddy.
It goes up pretty high.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Nice. So
that's going to be a challenge
for sure, which is good to hear. We have a question from Zapadas. Man, you all need easier names, I swear. Do you foresee changes in grouping in the pit to allow group play to be more efficient? There will be changes. It won't be something present in PTR. We'll talk more about it at the Season 5 launch, but the team is very aware of it because we've heard about like, hey, it's kind of not great to feel like I'm getting only 50% of the rewards associated when I'm in a group within a pit if I'm not the party leader specifically. So it's something that the team's taking in, and we will have an update for players before Season 5, and it will be live, whatever change we have live in Season 5. So,
all right.
A question from, let's see. Well, this one's easy. Okay. Robot Jomo. What's the team's philosophy on rate of power gain? It seems that tempering, especially players, gain too much power too quickly, really removing the tension from the leveling up experience. Any chance to add more friction to tempering, materials, costs, etc.?
Yeah. We have seen a little bit of this and heard this feedback ourselves. It's kind of going in two different ways here. So the leveling experience, then how tempering messes with it, right? The leveling experience, as people probably have seen, has been sped up quite a bit, right? We do want people to be able to kind of level quickly and get to the fun of the game as quickly as possible. So we do want them, we don't want there to be a ton of friction. Like, when we first launched the game, we had the idea that, like, getting to level 100 alone was a big accomplishment, right? And we've learned that, players really want to, like, fulfill their power fantasies.
That was one of the things that I was proud of, getting my barb to 100 on launch. That was not quick.
And so they enjoy that end game a lot, and we want to get them there in a reasonable amount of time. So that's the part that is like, hey,
I'm glad they sped that up.
A little quicker, it's good, right? But then the other part is like tempering and kind of the tuning of the affixes. We have heard the feedback and kind of agree with it that, the early tempering recipes are really, really strong. Right? That was by design when we launched Season 4. One of the big kind of mandates to the team that we felt was important was we wanted, before Season 4, we constantly got the feedback and knew it was true that, your item stats weren't interesting enough and didn't matter enough and weren't very impactful and just didn't feel good, right? And so we very much like juiced them up to be very strong, and then this new tempering system that manipulates them, we made it very strong so that out the gate, our goal was that when you temper an item, you can really feel the damage. It wasn't like this incremental, all my damage goes up in like 10 different places here and there, and now I'm strong. It was like, no, this one thing happened, and you felt it, and it was good. And so we're going to, try and walk that line. We're going to probably go a little more in between here where, we do agree that the tempering is warping the early game experience too much to the point that it's like, you pick up an item and you don't care about the stats because you just temper something on and it's like way better, right? So we don't want that, but we do still want them to feel and be really impactful. So we have heard the feedback. I don't think we have huge adjustments in Season 5 right away, but we are going to be looking at that leveling process and streamlining that quite a bit. I'm actually in talks about that right now with various members of the team. So it will be looked at. Not tons will change in Season 5 though.
Awesome. Question from Razzle Dazzle Daris. Razzle Dazzle Daris. It's a long name to log in on. Did you say we can temper uniques? Are you open to letting us imprint affixes? I had this thought we can imprint a unique, but only once.
Yeah, going back, that was kind of what I talked about with the unique section. We right now know, I'm not going to say never in the future. It's definitely the obvious thing that we could do, like, just add tempering to uniques, of course. But we want them to have an identity that is very different from legendaries.
Yeah, I get that. One of
the concerns with that is that the more that you give uniques manipulation, the more that they just turn into legendaries with a different item color when they drop on the ground, right? Like, they're actually not different in how they work. If we were able to manipulate stats, add stats, all those things.
Yeah,
so we do want them to have a different identity in the game. So we're not doing it now, but in the future, we've talked about it. We're open to the idea, but we do want to try this first of like double down, what makes a unique, and then you build around it. There's a little bit of friction, rather than just turning it into the item that you want every time.
Yep. Question from Barrick is, hey Adam or Adams, I have a question for the Q&A. How is the dev team feeling about the reception of Season 4? Is that making them rethink any plans for future seasons? I mean, I think one thing that we can most definitely call out here is like, obviously Season 4 has been really great. Like we've been hearing a lot of great feedback from players.
It's hard to really translate Season 4's reception to future seasons because there wasn't really a seasonal theme. So in other words, everything that you see, except maybe the Iron Wolves faction, that'd be the only exception. Everything else, though, is going to translate going forward. Everything in Season 4. So it's not really like, hey, what did you see in Season 4 that you liked that you'll carry forward? Because it's pretty much all going to be present in future seasons, so...
And we're very well aware of how everyone's been enjoying it. I think one huge thing that's helped with that as well was like the idea that we had a PTR for Season 4, and now we're seeing that again for Season 5. So like we know like having that moment where players can actually jump in, provide feedback, give us some notes on specific things is really beneficial, especially when we have like new huge features like what we did for Season 4, which was, obviously tempering, masterworking, the pit, all new hell tides. There was a ton of new features. And then, of course, with Season 5, players are now going to be able to run through Infernal Horde, tons of new gear, and legendary aspects for them. So it's just like a ton of stuff that we know that we can most definitely take feedback on, and having those moments has really helped us with some of those decisions.
Yeah, I would say on the design team side, I know like the people on the team are very happy with how Season 4 went. It couldn't have gone better, really, in our eyes. PTR was a huge deal, helped us a lot, especially on the balance and design side to get things into a better place. Another thing I may call out with Season 4 is that, I think how to phrase it, like, there's been a lot of disruption.
Why is that, Veilrith?
Right? And so when there's that much disruption of like, we update all the core math and all the items and everything, it's very difficult to get things into a fine-tuned state, right? And, without giving anything away, we have big updates coming in the future with, expansion and other things. But one of the things that we're looking forward to, I think, as a team is when we've kind of
oh, that's why. Yeah. No, you got to be higher.
Overhauling all of itemization and things like that. Because it becomes a lot more difficult to fine-tune things like balance, or even on the design side, like designs and making sure that they work and that we're like iterating and upgrading things versus changing things around in huge ways. So while we think it was really successful and we're happy with how Itemization 2.0 turned out, the team is looking forward to like making the things as they are and make them work better and more do fine-tuning work. And so I think you can expect in the future as a player, after we've done some more disruption and made the game like in a really good place, we're very happy with it, which we're really close to now, I think. That you have tighter class balance, tighter designs, tighter roles for things, and just one of the things that excites me and excited the team about Season 4 was like the tons of quality of life improvements and how much of an impact that makes on players, which I think we knew, but it hit home in Season 4, right? Like just the Codex of Power, how that changed and how that completely
that's massive.
Fixed, the hoarding of items and things like that. I think are what really jazz us a lot, because it just makes that flow experience better, like the boss ladder, being able to reset bosses, stuff like that. I think is actually really impactful and good for the longevity of the game. So we're excited to do more things like that.
All right. Last question that we have here is it's just Satan's.
Oh,
Satan's with a Z and 666 afterwards. Very good theme.
Diablo.
Yeah, very Diablo theme. Is specifically asking, what is the seasonal theme? Or are we like holding back any information right now regarding that and stuff? Dan, I don't know if you want to clarify here, or if you want me to, you can.
All right. So we haven't announced the name for the season yet, as far as I know, but the seasonal theme seems, I guess, fairly obvious. We're going back to hell And so the theme is pretty much returning to hell. And while the Infernal Horde is just one part of that, the rewards are another part. And when we have our Season 5 live stream, we'll go into all of the rest of the things that we have planned for Season 5.
Nice.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some additional stuff to talk about when we do actually have our Season 5.
Okay, so we'll get another live
Just,
stream.
right now, the biggest
specifically
focus
on
for this
that.
stream is for people to hear about the content that they're going to be able to play in PTR, and we want people to really hone in and focus in on that. So we can actually get that feedback for the team here, and we can make any changes that we may need to.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that is kind of going to wrap us up for today for our Q&A. I'm going to lightning round like a few quick things because I'm sure chat will kill me if I don't call it out.
Sure.
I know we're getting a lot of questions about loadouts. It is, again, still something that we are very well aware of, and we still plan on. It just takes a lot of time. It's a huge amount of overhaul changes and everything from that end. Separately, we this has been coming up a lot. Auction house. There are currently no plans right now for something like that, but we hear you guys. We feedback.
I could see that they'll probably add that later.
Right now, those are the two big things that I've been seeing a ton in chat. I just want to address them before people go like, "You're not reading chat. What you're in some like alternate universe chat or something like that." But PTR again, just to remind everyone, starts next Tuesday.
Good.
It runs for 1 week. It's on PC Battle.net only. Please provide feedback on our forums, Reddit, social media, our community Discord, things like that. We're always looking.
All right. Look, man, good stuff. I mean, obviously, without having our hands on the content, we don't know for sure. But the Infernal Hordes event looks really good. I like that they're continuing to give us content that gives you rewards that are different than other things, right? Otherwise, what's the real point of doing it, right? Other than maybe testing your build. But the Infernal Hordes event is really cool. I like the idea there. So we'll see how it feels in practicality with our hands on it. Some great changes coming. Some good quality of life things coming. With being able to resummon the bosses. We got a ton of new uniques and legendaries coming. That is beautiful. So good stuff. We'll see how it goes, but should be fun. But we'll definitely be playing Tuesday and checking the PTR out, so you guys can come if you're going to be here hanging out. You'll get a good look at it and see how it goes. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you all. An incredible stream. Looks good, and we'll be back on Monday. That's the question about leveling too easy really frosted my show. Well, I wouldn't worry about it, Grease. I don't think they're going to be adjusting the leveling process. I think, and you heard Adam mention, they want people to be able to efficiently and expeditiously move through the leveling curve and get to the meat of the game, which is the end game. He specifically said that. So I don't see them changing that. Don't worry about it. Yeah, no problem, Vorshin. And thank you for the retweet. I did give you your weirdos for that a little bit above you. So, yeah. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much again. And we'll see you Monday. As always, if you can be anything, be kind.